welcome to the Wider Vision podcast. I am your host, Justin Njovu. And of course, we come to you for the first episode. And today, I am joined by a very special guest, and I'm talking about our national director, Marc, who is going to introduce himself a little bit more as we continue. So remember, this podcast comes to you on a monthly basis, and we get to go beyond what you already know about World Vision in terms of the stories that you've seen, the reports. We get to dive deeper into our work. And of course, today makes it very special because we have our first edition of the podcast, and Marc is going to give us the reason why we are doing this podcast. And of course, Marc is leading the mission at World Vision in terms of transforming lives out there. And he is just the perfect match for this, first episode. So Marc is going to get into the details of talking to us about how, the priorities are set for World Vision this year, as well as the priorities moving forward in terms of the impact. Marc, it's such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the first edition of the Wider Vision podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Justin. The honor is mine, and thank you for having me.
Indeed, it's such an important time when we sit and we get to reflect on what we do, especially when it comes to impacting, the lives of children and the vulnerable people that we serve. Mm-hmm. But before we get into the actual meet, I think it would be good for our viewer out there to get to know who Marc is in the first place.
Good. Well, I can tell a little bit about myself, and hopefully that gives you a bit of a background. So I originally grew up in Germany, in one of a smaller village outside of Cologne, Bonn, in a bit of a country town, I would say, or country village. Yeah. So a lot of my friends are farmers. And when I started growing up, I was always initially engaged with the church, and then also later on a lot was in the school. I was a student leader. And as a student leader, I always looked at trying to improve our education, quality of education as students. So I was a student leader at my school, but also at the district and provincial level. So I was really engaged on sort of fighting for children and getting better quality education. That was always a big passion of mine. And I also grew up, and I think maybe sort of as a background, I mean, a lot of you know about Germany and sort of the war that Germany had experienced. Of course, not myself, but I had grandparents who, were in the war, and I remember always sort of the stories they told about it and the trauma they experienced. Yeah. And I think I always grew up with the question, why do people go to war? And I always had a lot of curiosity around that as well.
Wow. Interesting, and maybe that takes us to the next question. I can already sense you have this interest in education, and of course caring about people. That the war experience obviously changed how you think about life. Does that shape your opinion, your passions about serving humanity and working in the humanitarian sector?
Yeah, for sure. And I worked in a lot of different conflict zones thereafter, including in the war in Yugoslavia. I worked in Iraq. I worked with children in Palestine and Israel. Of course, in Ethiopia, in the Somali region, in many other places. But I think, of course, and we do know that as World Vision, children are the most vulnerable in any of these settings, let alone in a humanitarian or conflict setting. So I always felt, given where I was coming from, the questions I ask myself is what also I can do more to protect children in these very difficult circumstances.
Interesting. And what gives you the drive, and what fulfillment do you get from doing this? And I'm asking this from a point where you have a choice to either work in this space, or you could actually go corporate. So what gives you the drive and the fulfillment when you work in this space?
Yeah, I don't want to quote too much scripture, but I think one important thing is, I think given the upbringing I had, I think I always felt it was really important that we're here on earth to lift each other up, to really empower each other and really work together to bring a better life. And I think seeing that happening, and if it's just an individual that we can touch, that brings me fulfillment. And of course, working with an organization like World Vision, where we have a lot more impact, it gives us, or me, also much more satisfaction and feeling, always asking myself and the team, how can we create more and greater impact? So seeing that and then going out and visiting the communities in which we work, I've always found it greatly inspirational to see that change happening on a day-to-day basis.
Interesting. And you working for World Vision Zambia, is there like anything special about Zambia and you touching their lives out here?
Well, as you know, it's my second time working back in Zambia, so I was really touched when I was asked by the board to come back and work together with the team here. I think one thing I always think is very special about Zambia, I think when I look at the diversity, it's a huge country. You have so many people with even different languages that are spoken, but you remain united as a country, and you remain very peaceful, which I think when you look in a lot of places in the world, not only in Africa, that's not always the case, right?
Yeah.
I think you have a common dream and something that you all work together to, and I think that's very special about Zambia.
Interesting. And, as we progress, I know maybe you know a few words in maybe Nyanja or Bemba. Please.
No, you're testing my,
I know, right? But feel free to, throw in a few Bemba or Nyanja words when you can as we go on with the discussion. But, maybe as we start, what World Vision key priority areas in this year, as we know that we're coming out of a drought situation, and that there's a lot that we did. Maybe we can start from there, and then you can, just tell people about our priorities as we take on this year.
Yeah, so this year is actually a very important year because we're coming to the end of our strategic plan, and we had in the beginning a big goal of reaching more than 1.5 million children. So this is really the final year where we're making a big push to really make that dream come true and really trying to reach those children and those communities that we had set out a couple of years ago. As you mentioned, Zambia comes out of a historical drought, and it's been really, for me, a bit heartbreaking to see coming back to Zambia when you went out to the rural areas and you see how dry it was, how the people were suffering in terms of not having enough access to food, also the livestock in terms of the access to water. So it was really, really heartbreaking. But at the same time, I think we can be tremendously proud, not only of World Vision, but of everybody really rallying the support together to really do a massive response and really making sure that people in different parts of the country were able to get some relief from the drought, let it be from the work that we were doing around water sanitation and from food distribution. But that has been really a key priority for us this year, and we're now in the last couple of weeks of wrapping up this response. And so the team and everybody beyond really did a tremendous work. And beyond that, I think there's a lot of other exciting things. So aside from the strategy coming to an end, we're also now looking at the new strategy. So we're really thinking, how should we look and work as World Vision Zambia? And of course, we cannot forget geopolitics. And, we're also asking ourselves, how can we continue to work with the different funding that we have or we don't have? How we can diversify our funding to really make sure that we can continue to deliver this transformational change for children. So it's a big question for us and a big challenge for us this year. And I think the other one is really to continue to show, and I'm glad we have the opportunity here today, and share with others about the good work that we're doing and rallying more support for us. So that's very important as well.
Interesting, and I'm glad you mentioned partnerships and how important they are in driving the work that we do. And I think we are going to get to dive deeper into the partnerships that World Vision is engaging in, and possibly other partnerships that can come on board as we get into the new strategy and how important that is. But then the reason why we are here, Mark, is because we are beginning to have this podcast. We have just launched this idea of the podcast. So from your end, how is this important? How is communication important in pushing the agenda forward, especially when we are transforming the lives of children, the lives of the vulnerable in our communities?
Yeah, and I would first of all say, even though it's a podcast, and I want to say communication is not a one-way street, right? So, of course, today I can share some of the things that we are planning to do, but we also want to hear from others, really how we can do better as World Vision. So it's really a two-way communication street. So also giving us feedback as World Vision Zambia. So that's an important part of our communication work. And it starts by actually us sharing what are we doing, all the way at the community level, engaging with communities, but also in the broader media space and sharing with people what are we doing, so we can hold each other accountable and say we have set out to do this and that, and so people can check the work that we're doing. We remain transparent at the work that we're doing, and we also and we talk a little bit about partnership, really inviting others to join us in the work that we're doing. And I think that is really, very important because, while World Vision has a good footprint here in Zambia, I think we can do a lot more, and we can deliver even more impact with more partnerships, with other NGOs, of course, with the government of Zambia and the private sector. So communication is really an important tool to share with others the work that we're doing, and inviting others to join us and also give us feedback on the work that we're doing.
Indeed, yeah. I think I'm personally proud that we have begun this journey, because I think it also gives us an opportunity to reach out to corporates and other executives, because now we are in a digital world, and there's a lot going on social media. LinkedIn, do you think this is also going to broaden opportunities for others to come on board and work with World Vision?
For sure. And actually you reminded me, when I started this work originally, we were working on a radio station with children, and we were broadcasting in a smaller circus in that particular country, but it was actually meant to bring young people together from different backgrounds. So I think there's a huge power in communication, and not to forget about advocacy. Really, I think, we see a lot of challenges within Zambian context.
Yeah.
And I think by pointing out some of the challenges and the pathways for solutions, we can all work together to overcome some of those challenges that the country is facing. So it's another really important, but I'm a really firm believer that, and using different media to really make that happen.
Interesting. And what do you think people should look out for in terms of getting to listen to this podcast moving forward? What are some of the interesting things that the listener out there should look out forward to?
Hopefully we'll have a better understanding about some of the work that we're doing as well, Vision Zambia, and that gives you a bit of an insight into the work that we're doing. I think, as I mentioned, not only here in the podcast, but beyond, we'll also do more coverage about the drought response, the work that we're doing. Hopefully you will learn a bit more about the strategy and also provide us an opportunity to give input in our strategy. Going forward, we also be looking at doing some more work around innovation, and we'll be inviting others to join us in bringing innovation to our work and help us to solve some of the problems that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And then this month, I think I'm really excited about looking at wellness and mental well-being. So there will have a podcast coming out about this. Again, we as parents looking and struggling, I think, with some of the issues that we have with our children and teenagers, and beyond, and really how we can, support each other and support our children in some of those issues as well.
Interesting, and of course, there's quite a number of interesting topics that are coming up, and I'm glad that you mentioned the mental wellness and mental well-being. I think that's such an important topic, and there are many other topics that are be coming up. I think we have issues to do with we have topics to do with disability, and that's one of the interesting things that are coming up. I was shocked to hear that there's actually ways in which people with disability are supposed to be referred to. So how exciting is that, especially that World Vision is doing quite a number of things around disability.
Yes, I think it's very exciting, and I have a family member as well with a disability. And again, I think it's important to really create that supportive environment. I think, not to exclude someone, because I think it's easily, I have a family member who is in a wheelchair, for example, and due to a childhood illness. But again, when you hear about her accounts growing up and the challenges that she had faced, about not being able to participate or engage, or just the simple perception that people have, really, really makes it hard. And again, looking in the context of Zambia, I know some of those issues are even harder. So I think it's really important for us to ask ourselves, what prejudice we have against any type of disability that exists out there. How do we treat people, from the first on-site? And how do we really create a much more inclusive environment so that really everybody can participate and live to their good God-given potential, and that's really important.
Indeed. Thank you so much, Mark. And of course, to you, our viewers, be sure to join us on the second episode of this podcast, where we are going to be joined by Doreen, who is coming through to dive deep into issues surrounding disability and the language that's friendly and the work that World Vision is doing in terms of disability. And of course, Mark, let me just take you back. We're so glad that you came back to Zambia, and this time around you came back to World Vision. We have been privileged to have you and to work with you. I know you're very passionate about photography and videos. I've seen some amazing work that you've done. But I also want to find out, what's the one thing about Zambia that has surprised you or has inspired you?
I think I mentioned a little bit earlier, but again, for me, really, it is the unity of Zambia. I think really, the peaceful coexistence that exists in Zambia. I've worked in a lot of places where that is not there, and I think I always think, having traveled from Eastern Province all the way Western Province and South and to the North, it is such a diverse country, and it's sometimes a bit of a miracle, right? That you all are being able to maintain that national unity and the peacefulness. And I think for me, that is really, really inspires me, and hopefully inspires others, not only in the Africa context, but beyond, to really find a way that despite your differences, you can have a peaceful nation that works towards prosperity of its citizens. And so that's really continues to inspire me, for sure.
Did you miss the Shima?
Definitely the Shima, but I'm more from the Western Province, so I do prefer the rice. But of course, I will never pass off a good Zambian barbecue. So for sure, always happy to have that.
That's great. I missed the Shima today. Yeah, but I'll definitely. I think it's on my menu because I can't go without.
You can't go without Shima for the whole day.
I know, right?
No.
Yeah. So then I know you spoke a lot more about your passion for education and how you grew up, leading the movement for education. Is that still the passion even today? If there was one problem that you'd want to solve for children today in Zambia, and you could turn things around overnight, what could it be?
I would say definitely education is there on the top. And coming back to Zambia, I'm amazed to see, really the efforts that have been put into place to really bring all children into school. But we also know that it comes with a huge challenge in terms of enough classroom space, having facilities, enough teachers. So I think, and again, we need to be looking into the future, right? And how can we build the future? And a good foundation for that, and really, for really Zambia to prosper, is a good education. So having that good quality education, I think, would really make a difference, not only now, but also for the future for come. for really having a well-educated Zambian population and children really will, I'm sure, build for the prosperity of the country. So I would hope, that would be one thing. If we can fix that overnight,
Yeah.
which I know is not that easy, but if we let it be a wish, that's something we can all work together to and really invest in our children, and really build the future for Zambia. I think that's the way to go.
Interesting. And of course, I think that's important. And of course, we know that World Vision is also working in the education space, and they've done quite a lot. I think in the coming episodes, we'll get to chat with experts who are going to, just crack it down and, show us the impact that education has on children. But it may also be interesting for the listener out there to get to know about the programming that World Vision is doing in Zambia. Maybe you can just give us a summation of what World Vision is doing to impact the lives of children and impact the lives of the most vulnerable people in our communities.
Yeah, so we really work across different sectors and programming. I mean, in the education sector, I think it's important to recognize we're not only working on making sure there's more classroom space and that those classrooms are well equipped, but we're also working really on training teachers to really make sure that there's good quality education. Really great to see that I think stories and local languages are also captured to really preserve, I think, not only the local languages, but also the stories that evolve around it. Beyond that, of course, one of the biggest parts of the work that we do is around water and sanitation. So been really amazing to see, again, the continued challenges, of course, that Zambia has had around accessing quality water, for example, and good water. And so a lot of our work has been around really providing water in rural communities, and it's been really done with a lot of innovation. So there's a lot of pipe water systems powered by solar, and so it's not only the hand pump, but we really have worked a lot on and bringing more innovation into that sector and really giving tools to the community to maintain those structures in the future. And again, when we're talking about good children's health, we talked a bit about food security and the drought, right?
Yeah.
But a good basis of all that is sanitation, right?
Yeah.
Because if children are taking in food, but they're suffering from diarrhea, they cannot absorb all those good nutritions that we have been growing. So, there's an important aspect of nutrition. We talked a little bit about livelihoods, and really, I think as we talked a bit about climate change, continuing our work that we're doing, or really working with farmers on preserving the environment, but also dealing with the challenges of climate change.
Yeah.
So that's an important aspect of well.
And I was in Chama just last week, and we were working in Chikwa, trying to just document some of the impact that World Vision is doing. I was amazed to hear some stories in Wash, and also some of the sacrifices that go into these communities. So I heard a story from one of our staff that had gone to a community to meet a community and give them clean water, and they get to this community, they find children do not have good clothing, and they were touched by that, and they had to go back and use their resources to just get these children some clothes. So I'm bringing this up just to give it context in terms of the areas where World Vision is doing, implementing these programs. Maybe you can also just highlight a little bit more when it comes to the areas that we are focusing on. Are we like in peri-urban areas, in urban areas?
Thank you, Justin, for reminding me. No, and I think World Vision is really dedicated to work with the most vulnerable children, and sort of by definition, we find those often in the much more rural and most remote communities in Zambia. So, as you rightfully said, Chikwa, for those who don't know where that is, that's Eastern Province, all the way South Chama. It's a long road from Lundazi, if you can even speak of a road. It's a really hard to reach area, and you can see really why people are vulnerable and marginalized in those areas. Until recently, they had no access to power, for example, until we started the mini power grid there. They had no access to clean water, as you mentioned, and challenges in terms of school facilities. But yeah, we do work in the most rural areas for sure in Zambia, which is brings operational challenges, but also really you can see a lot of impact in terms of the work that we do.
Mark, as we're coming to a close of this discussion, maybe we can talk about a little bit about partnerships. We have had a lot of meaningful partnerships, both locally and globally. Can you just share with our viewers and our listeners what these partnerships mean when it comes to transforming the lives of children and the vulnerable communities? And what message do you have for potential partnerships, especially in the areas that you've just highlighted that World Vision is working in?
So I think World Vision Zambia has a great opportunity to partner with. We work across all of the different provinces except the Copper Belt, where, of course, our Vision Fund is only right now. But beyond that, we really work in all of the different provinces, again, in some of the most rural communities. And I think for partners, it really provides an opportunity, given that we have an existing program. Often those programs are operating in a 15-year life cycle. So we have sort of, if I would say it, foundational funding. So it really gives donors and partners an opportunity to say, and look and work together with us and co-create and say, how can we address some of the other challenges in the communities that you're not able to cover? So we're not starting a program from scratch. We are not only engaging there for a couple of months, but giving the long partnerships that we have, the insights we have in the communities, the strong relationships we have with community leaders really provide a great platform to co-create and really look at ways of how really can bring that transformational change that hopefully you as a partner are interested to make as well.
Interesting. And of course, Mark, thank you so much for your time and for your insights during this discussion. We are coming to an end now, unless you have something burning that you would want to share.
I think we have covered everything for today, Justin, and I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to talk again. And if not, do some more social media postings where we can share more updates about the work that we do. So thank you for your time today.
Indeed, I'm looking forward to having you again. And to you, our listeners, stay tuned, to our social media channels on YouTube, on Facebook, for more of these, and stay glued, of course, to catch up with our next topic and our next guests. And of course, we look forward to our next episode where we'll dive into issues to do with disability and what World Vision is doing. And of course, later on, we're hoping to have a friend of World Vision, Brian Wembia, popularly known as B-Flow, who is also the newly elected Zambia Association of Musicians President, with a very interesting topic around art and charity. So from me, Justin Njovu, it's bye-bye until next time.